Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. And today we are speaking with Robert Hamilton Owens, better known to us outliers as RHO. Robert is a U.S. Air Force veteran, a pararescueman, 12-time Ironman finisher, keynote speaker, coach, consultant, author, and what else can I throw in the mix? And almost a year ago, spent over 43 days rowing from one side of the Atlantic to the other. Robert, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Good morning to you. California to Florida. It's good to talk with you.
Outstanding. Talk about one coast to the other.
That's
it's
right.
So nice to have you with us, brother. But before we get into today's topic, which is making resiliency a reality, tell us a little bit about you.
Born and raised here in Southern California. Was an adopted kid out of an orphanage locally here. Was a special needs kid. Didn't learn to run till I was about in 6th grade, and had lots of snakes in my head, poor self-worth issues growing up. And fortunately, some coaches got with me and began to work with me and say, hey, listen, you're not stupid, you're just lazy and you're undisciplined. And if you'd get your act together and do what we tell you, you could do things in your life. And finally, about 20 years old, I decided that they were maybe correct. And that's when I went in the military and my life changed. The name of the book that I wrote was called Beyond Average, because I lived such an average, mediocre life for so long. And then these guys got in my head and said, you're not thinking right. And you need to think about your thinking. And why do you think the way that you do? And don't let wounds from your early life sabotage your future. And I began to listen to them. And, then I went out for pararescue. And if most listeners probably don't know what that is, the Army, Navy, Marines is offense. And for the Air Force, our special ops is defense. And so we're combat paramedics that go in and get the guys out once they got in trouble. Anyway, and that's when I really grew up, began to change, and found out that I had skills in life and issues. And I started working on my thinking, and my life changed and went on from there. When I got out, I became a business consultant for some companies, and then I became a senior pastor. I planted a church at the University of Nevada, Reno, and was there for 25 years as chaplain for football, baseball, basketball, working with athletes and doing business consulting work. And that was a good run and a good career. And then about 10 years ago, my father was 92. My mom died at 91. And they were bummed, or my dad was bummed, because they've been married 65 years. And I said, hey, Dad, what can we do for you? And he said, I want you to come home and I want you to hang out with me. And I thought the best way to honor my dad for giving me a family and adopting me out of that orphanage as a special needs kid was to go home. So we went home and took care of my dad for 10 years. Did senior care, elder care, and he passed at 101. And the best part was that he passed more physically fit at 101 than he was at 92. I put him on a physical fitness program at 92, and he took to it like a young duck to water. And he was doing air squats and all kinds of stuff to the day he died. So it was fun to work with him and help him get a better life when he thought he just had to act 92. And I said, don't act your age, act your potential. You're capable of much more. And he bought into it. We had a great time. So I live in Southern California now, and I do a lot of, as you know, speaking and coaching.
Such a heartwarming story of no age, right? No age. And, those that got in your head not only changed your life, but they've changed ours, because we've been able to witness from afar sometimes what has come about your life, and have seen the books and have seen the interviews, and know that it's so important to have someone speak life into you. And if any of the listeners can get that today, if you have an opportunity to speak life into somebody, do so, because it really does change not only their trajectory, but all those that get to witness that?
There's been a number of books written on the theme, the power of one. They've taken burn victims and murder relatives and stuff. All these people have these major tragedies to their life. And then they've said, what was it that caused you to make it? And they said, well, I latched on to one person. And that one person spoke the positive in the sea of negativity. And I just believed that one person, whether it was a grandmother or a coach, somebody. And that pulled me out of that despair and that lostness, hopelessness that I was in. And when I read I've read 2 books on it where chapter after chapter is a story how one person made such a critical difference in saying, I believe in you. I know you can make this, all those kind of things. And the person just locked on for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, and made it up out of that hole. So it's so important, the kind of people you have in your life and who you allow in your life to speak to your life, especially during, as we want to talk today, during adversity. Where do you turn when you're in adversity? And how do you develop that ability to withstand the struggle and make it through those really challenging times?
Folks, we're going to be speaking about making resiliency a reality. Christmas, holidays, Thanksgiving, New Year's are seen as festive times, and they sure are. But I want to remind everybody that it's not that way for everyone. Both RHO and myself have been around or been witness to things that are not as happy. And these times seem to be as joyous and as sad as they can be for a lot of people in different times in their life. And we'll be getting into a comprehensive assessment and strategy development process to make resiliency a tangible and achievable goal. Now, RHO, building resiliency is crucial in various aspects of life, whether it's personal well being, business, and community development. So, what are some vulnerabilities and risks that we should be looking out for as we build resiliency?
I think first, I would say to somebody, do you want to become resilient or do you want to be a victim? And so, how you look at your circumstance is your choice. And all of us have stuff, and we know people that have issues and stuff. And when you say to somebody, you want to make it, they sometimes look at you and say, well, of course I want to make it. And I say, do you want to pay the price to make it? And then they say, what's the price? And I say, the price is change, and the price is growth, and the price is doing hard things. And I don't know that you want it as bad as I want it for you. So I'm here for you, but I want you to get more help than you want to get the help because you don't want to do the work. And so I always ask people, like I train Navy SEAL guys today. I train Air Force Special Warfare pararescue guys and stuff. I train kids, and I say to them, "You really want this?" And they go, "Oh yeah." I say, "Are you willing to pay the price?" And they look at like, "What's the price going to be?" Well, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be really miserable. We're going to make your life miserable, but miserable won't kill you. Once you make it your friend, and once you make pain your friend, then you can find out you can do a lot more than you think you can do. But you want to be comfortable and you don't want to have to press into difficult areas. And that's what we as instructors need to do, is to find out, can we develop you in the pain, the miserableness, the problems, the pressure of life, or do you just want to pull the thing, ring the bell, as they say, and get out? And I have these conversations on a weekly basis with people with issues. Oh, you want to be resilient, huh? All right, let's talk about what that's going to cost you, and tell me about your background, your family, your this or that, and what is it that you're facing with your wife or your kids or your money or your job, your employer. Tell me about your stuff and tell me why you're struggling. And then let's see if we can't figure out if you really want to work through that, because we can work through it if you want to. And they just go, oh my God, this is going to be a challenging conversation. And I say, it is for all of us, because all of us have had stuff, and we have a choice what we're going to do to develop that resiliency. And we all have to do the difficult thing and suck it up and get into it.
Now, change indeed. You speak about the change that's to come, and resiliency involves the ability to adapt to change and navigate uncertainty effectively. So, how can we adapt to change and uncertainty as we strategize in building resiliency?
I think first you have to say, I'm going to embrace change. I just saw somebody that said, I really want to do a lot of things, but I'm not an early morning person. And I said, you know, if you want it bad enough, you'll get rid of your excuses and you'll be an early morning person, not because you like it. Like I don't like it, but if I want to get my stuff done, if I want to do what I need to do, I got to get up early in the morning. So how bad do I want what I want? So I think that there's something about saying to someone going into Christmas, you're going to have some difficult times or be around difficult people, or you're going to see difficult situations. Are you prepared to help them? Are you prepared to have the right words, the right comments? Are you willing to work on your stuff in case you need to come up with a new answer for this Christmas? Some folks we get, they're alcoholics, we get them to dry out. And then we say to them, what are you going to do at Christmas? Because your families are full of drinkers. And they say, I'm going to go home. And I say, why? And they say, well, that's my family. And I say, have you ever not drank when you've gone home with your relatives because of the pressure? And they go, well, I say, no, you don't go home. Well, wait a minute, that's my family. I love my family. Well, you want to be stupid? Go home and end up being, if you always do what you always done, you always get what you always got. So go back, go home and start and wallow around, or make a stand and say, I can't go home because I want to be still, I want to stay sober. And I want to have a win this Christmas. And I don't want to get in a beef and a fight with my whoever it is. So I'm going to pull myself out of that circumstance so I don't have to be in that situation when it comes up. And I talk to folks about the pre thinking. Most folks just think, and all of a sudden they're in the moment. And they go, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. But if you pre think, if what's it going to be like next week? What's going to be like with getting married? What's it going to be like with kids? What's it going to be like? I pre-think as best I can, and maybe get mentors who speak in your life and say, now listen, when you get in this situation, this is the kind of stuff you're going to have to deal with, and you maybe haven't done really well with that in the past, or you don't know how to handle that or what you're going to say if it happens. Let's work on that. And most people don't do the pre-work in their life to get ready for stuff. And I encourage people to think on that a lot.
Very valuable advice there, because during the holidays, you're right. We're going to get surrounded by all kinds of folks, and during the year, it's typical. You get in this group, you get in that group, but typically around the holiday, that's when families regroup, and then you get into elements that may have not served you well, even if
Correct.
it was family. So resiliency is often strengthened by support and relationships and network. And so, how can we enhance or diversify our support network to provide better support during challenging times, because they will come?
I think, as I maybe mentioned before, I find mentors to help me in areas that I'm vulnerable in. So if I was a drinker, I'd go to AA and I'd say, you guys, I'm heading into the holiday season. How are you guys doing? And I would find somebody that I could call and talk to every day prior to the crisis that's awaiting me. Or I would read or listen to podcasts, but I would change what I put in my head so that I'm strengthening myself for adversity every day to grow mental resiliency versus all of a sudden one day hoping it'll just show up in my life. And they go, oh, I got it today. I did it. Usually that doesn't happen. And so I'm talking to folks about maybe wisdom. What can you do to grow? How to grow? What do you want to grow in? Who's going to help you with that? And give me a plan that you want to have that this Christmas is going to be different than last Christmas. And then tell that plan to me. And I have the executives call me, big figure of people, but they haven't done the work in that vulnerable little area during Christmas or Thanksgiving. And they got everything, but they don't have this. And they go, oh my God, I'm upside down again with my aunt or with my sister or this or that. Or there could be some suicide that I'm around. Okay, what am I going to do to get ready if that kind of thing happens? And when someone pre-thinks an awful lot, usually they're not so overwhelmed in the moment because they've got themselves geared up for it could be tough, and therefore I don't want to walk in clueless and then have to make a split second decision on how I'm going to react when someone says something or they ask me a question. And if people would do the pre-work, which is, what do I do that? So like for me, when I got married, I had 5 kids and I didn't know anything about anything. So I went out, got myself a mentor on how to have a better marriage. Found a guy, got a great marriage, help me. And we met every month and he had me read books and, blah, blah, blah. I had a guy, another mentor, I went out and said, I need a mentor for money. My dad didn't talk to me a whole lot about money. And so I said, you look at money and it just grows. So would you please help me with that? And I got another mentor for kids. How do I raise these? My kids are giving me a lot of trouble. Hey, Dad, we want to be in special ops too. No, you don't. Just relax. Like one of my kids, he got in juvenile hall at 7th grade, and I said, "What did you steal?" And blah blah blah. So I called the judge up in town, and I say, "Hey, judge, my kid's in kid jail." He goes, "Bo?" And I said, "Yeah, Bo." He said, "Okay, you want to go visit him?" I said, "Sure." So we go down to kids jail on a Sunday morning, and there's my son in this little cell by himself. And the judge looked at me and I looked at him and he goes, "Why don't you go and spend some time with him?" So the big door goes behind me and I sit on the bunk bed and I go, "Hey, Bo, how you doing?" He goes, and he just looks at me with a 7th grade look. And he looks at me and he says, "Hey, Dad, they can't break me. I can do another 24 hours like this easy. Special ops, hooyah." And I go, "No, that's not what you're supposed to be learning in here." He said, "Dad, I'm going to be like you. We're going to be tough. They can't get me." And I went, "Oh, God." And so I went and found somebody to say, what do I do to be a better dad to somehow not model the wrong stuff and help me? So I say those things that if you show humility and you go ask for help prior to being in a car wreck, you know, you can find people that would love to help you and talk with you somewhere in your town, your community, or online that will prepare you for growth and for change and the pain that you're going to have to walk in to have that kind of change be effectual in your life, I think.
Community and tools are so vital to this growth that we are looking for in resiliency. And so building resilience requires the acquisition of specific resources and skills. So what areas do you suggest we invest in to build the necessary skills to help our resiliency?
The very first skill that we work with our special ops community, we have what's called the Big Four. And the first thing is breathing. And so some people know about breathing, and some people just breathe. And so emotional control is controlled by your breathing. And so when you do deep nasal breathing, which is unnatural, when you do that and inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth, like we teach our guys to only breathe 6 times a minute, only 6 times a minute, not, but 6 times. What's a 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale. When you do that, what are you doing? You're working on mind control. You're working on being control of your body versus your body being in control of you. When you work on your breathing, what you're saying to your brain is, I want to think about my thinking, and I want to think the right thoughts, and I want to retrain my brain mental resiliency with neuroplasticity to think the positive before the negative. And I can do that if I work on think about my thinking every day. And we'll say to our kids, we're going to teach you that we're going to crush you, and then we're going to teach you to breathe and not lose it emotionally. Think yourself through the situation, and then you'll make what we're going to do to you easier, and you'll get it. And we're going to do that for 9 months. So we send people to a mental gym. We go, Here's the physical gym. Everybody thinks special ops is all physical. It's 90% mental. Don't quit. Get control of your brain. So I want you to breathe. Here's the physical gym. And then we're going to send you 3 times a day to a mental gym. And the mental gym is where you're going to think about your thinking, and you're going to plan in the morning for your all morning. You're going to plan at lunch for your afternoon, and you're going to think about your evening at 5 o'clock before you get your evening. You're going to take 5 minutes and sit and meditate and think about your thinking going into the next block of time and the next block of people and the next block of pressure. And once we get people to think about their breathing, which is not normal because I want to go be a mouth breather. Once you learn about mind control, I'm a self-mastery coach and I teach mental resiliency for a living. I get paid to do this thing about adversity and resilience. And we say to them, if I can look in your eyes and I can help you think about what we're going to do and what you're going to go into before you get there, and you get a plan for it before you get there, you'll 90% of the time not ring the bell. You'll make it through the divorce. You'll make it through sick kids. You'll make it through losing your job. We can help you mentally think better. So number 1 is breathing, whole thing on it. Number 2 is we have positive self-talk. When you're doing positive self-talk, like people think I'm nuts because I'll be talking to myself. Great day, looking good, feeling good, should be in Hollywood, all's good, I can handle this, blah, blah, blah. When I'm speaking out loud, I can't think negative thoughts because you can't have 2 loops in your head at the same time. So when I'm speaking the positive over myself, I can't think the negative. So I breathe, then I begin to speak life over me. If you're a Christian, you'd speak scripture. If you're non-Christian, you speak mantras, whatever it is, as man thinketh, or think on these things. Then number 3, I visualize what it's going to look like to get through this, because I'm working on it from my breathing and I'm seeing myself get through this pressure. Do I want to commit suicide? No, let me think about that negativity. And I think about visualizing being healthy. And number 4, then I do mini goals. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? I can't do all day, but I can do this morning. Like when I say to a kid, we have 300 more burpees to do. They look at me like, are you kidding me? And I said, all of us need someone to give us mental resiliency, to show us how to overcome when we don't think we can overcome. But you got to have the right instructor, the right role model. You got to have the right people to bring that craft, that ability out of you. And will you go find that person who's going to take you into pain and then show you how to get through pain? And Christmas is about pain. Yeah, Christmas isn't about Santa. Christmas is about difficult relationships, difficult people, different job people, this is people handling things, different religious people, different situations, and how you're going to see it and develop the resiliency that you need to develop to get through that, or get into life and get through life. And I lead people in that all the time, and they come back and they go, I made it through Christmas. I said, and you didn't say that bad thing, and you didn't throw anything, and you didn't mouth off, you walked away, or you breathed. And they go, I'm developing a skill that my emotions are not in control of me, but I'm thinking about my thinking. When I rode across the Atlantic, the team came apart. I did it partly because I was doing that for veteran suicide, but I was doing it as a mental resiliency coach to put myself in a stressful situation where the longest sleep that I got in 43 days was 1 hour and 45 minutes. So I would row for 3 hours and be off for 3 hours, and row for 3 hours and be off for 3 hours, meaning I rode 2 daytime shifts and I rode 2 nighttime shifts. And the nighttime shifts were really hard, rowing 3 hours, from 12 to 3 in the morning, or from 3 to 6 in the morning, whatever it was. You're upside down, and your longest sleep is 1 hour and 45 minutes. You got 4 of those a day. And when people became sleep deprived, they morphed into a new creature. because they'd never put themselves in that kind of pressure before. The pressure of, oh my God, I can't think straight. I'm hallucinating and I'm seeing things that aren't there and hearing things that aren't there. And I'm losing control of my mind. And they began to come unglued on each other. You know, everything was making them upset with each other. And so they would say to me, hey, Robert, I'm an old guy. I'm the only American on the team. I'm the oldest guy. They thought, why is that old guy on this boat, you know? And I said, we'll see. So, about 10 days out, people start yelling at each other and throwing things. And I get real quiet. And they say to me, are you okay? And I say, I'm great. And they say, you never say anything. Why? I said, because I'm thinking about my thinking. And they say, well, what are you thinking about your thinking? And I'm saying, I'm thinking that I don't want to be like you. So I'm going to work on my thinking and be real quiet, mind my own business, and just focus on my shift, what I can do, how I can be a part of this team, and not make anything any worse, because you guys do that for me. And they said, really? I said, yeah. So I'm not going to say much at all, because I'm trying to keep control of my brain versus let sleep deprivation cause me to think the wrong things and say the wrong things. And for probably 20 days, hey, Robert, you okay? All good. You never say anything. Have nothing to say. What are you doing? I'm thinking. Why? Because I'm developing mental resiliency. I'm staying in control, and I'm not letting you guys cause me to engage in stupid talk that's going to cause me to say things I don't want to say. And so you can do that. If a person on this podcast wants to grow, they can say, I don't want to commit suicide. I just don't know any other options. So where do I find options? Where can I go to have someone give me a thought that's different than the ones that are in my head? And all of us have a choice of how we think. And you can develop a plan to think better, wiser, smarter, positive if you want to. But most people don't want to do the hard work of tackling their emotions and saying, I shouldn't be like this. Give me a mentor, show me a mentor. I'll find a mentor that can help me think better hour by hour, block by block, day by day, one day at a time, till I change the way my emotions try to rule my life. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And great tools and great comments on mentorship. I am one. I mentor on several different organizations, and it is vital to have that. And speaking about having that one, resiliency is not just an individual trait, it's also a cultural attribute. And there's a lot of leaders that are listening and questioning, hey, how can I promote an environment that supports resiliency? Because it is vital for leaders to set the tone, not only in how work is performed, but also in how resiliency is addressed. So, what would you advise leaders that are asking that question?
You know, when I first go to a corporation or to a business, they always say, I have problems with middle management and the workers. And I say, really? And so I do my due diligence. I'm hanging out with the lower class, the middle class, the upper C-suite guys. And usually it always comes down to the C-suite guys have the problems. And the C-suite guys set the culture for the rest of the company, whether it's throwing things or yelling or demeaning people in public or being impatient, whatever it is. And I say to the head guy, I say, have you thought about your thinking? Because I saw you snap at that person, or I saw you make a derogatory comment about that person on the side. Have you thought about your thinking? What do you mean? I'm the boss. Yeah, well, it doesn't mean you're right. Just means you've got some sort of authority or dictatorship because you pay them. Do they like you? Are you a jerk? Or are you appreciated? And they go, I don't know, no one ever talks to me like that. And I say, why don't you think about setting up a culture that's positive leadership, and model to them how you're working on your issues mentally, and whatever you're doing to work on your issues with your wife, your kids, your neighbors, or your pressure from your investors or your board, then tell them how you're working on it and model for them how they can handle their stuff too. And they always say to me, that's too much work. You know, I mean, my stuff's my stuff, they just need to do what they're supposed to do. And I say, no, one of the Christian scriptures is follow me as I follow, you know, be the role model and be the one to say, follow me as I'm following, because I'm working on my stuff. And as I'm working on my stuff, I'll help you work on your stuff because we're all in this together. And at Christmas time, everyone's in it together. They may not be saying everything, but all those employees are smelling each other and talking to each other over coffee and not talking to each other. And you as the leader can say, are we working on our stuff? We want to be more healthy next Christmas as a team than we are this one. But many times leaders don't want to do the hard work. They just want to tell people what to do. So culture and setting culture, modeling culture is huge.
Absolutely. And I've seen folks that have taken that to heart, and I've seen the other that you just detailed there, where it's, hey, this is my deal, and they gonna have to just perform. And it's hard to do that under leadership that does not foster a resilient environment, and it definitely does not work where leadership is saying, hey, do as I say, not as I do. And we both seen it both in the military and civilian sector. So it's just leadership, folks. And you can actually have a great impact on many lives, not only during this season of holidays, but throughout the year. And the question is, will you be that type of leader?
I would say to those listening to us today, um, I would like you to write Enrique, and I'd like you to, after this podcast, write and say, what did you get from that guy Owens? Was he a jerk? Should you ever have him again? What did he say? And if you would give feedback of what you heard, it would help many folks figure out what to do when we talk about this kind of stuff and what you would like to have more of. Because all of us deal with stress and all of us have a problem with resiliency and all of us have a problem with mental toughness or working through issues. And so, what would it take for you to have wins this Christmas? And what did you get from this podcast? And then, how are you going to adapt or do some of this work, hard work, and have a win this Christmas? The goal is not to survive it, the goal is to have a win. And to get the win is to do things that you haven't done before that are difficult and embrace them and then say, gosh, it worked or sort of worked. And I'm more enlightened now to go into next year because I'm going to have a better Christmas next year because I'm going to work all year long on my resiliency during difficult times. And I'm sure that feedback is always appreciated here. Got a lady from Switzerland that calls me, we get talking about change management. May know Manola from Outliers. And I'll say, Manola, how would you say it differently than the way I just said it? She worked for Deloitte and she's got more brains than I have capacity. And I'll say, help me think differently than I'm thinking. And she'll say, give me their one-line sentence. And I'll tell her my one line. She said, well, why don't you say it like this? And I'll go, never thought of that. And she goes, well, when I work with corporations, this is what I say instead of what you just said. And I get better results than you do. I say, mentor me, help me figure out how to say things right, or hear things right, or think things right. And I'm old man, I'm still trying to say, kids and grandkids and people, how can I do this better? There's a better way to develop mental resiliency than the way I'm pounding away on some stupid thing, and it's the wrong way to do it. So, I'm sure that you could enjoy some of the feedback you get from this.
Absolutely. And I agree. Manola is a gem of a person, and she'll be hearing this. So she'll be ear to ear, obviously. No, but you mentioned something earlier about your dad, in his 90s. He picks up this physical fitness thing. And then he was like, in his hundreds, he's more fit than he was in his 90s because he wasn't afraid of change. He wasn't afraid of going after this thing that they didn't think before, or he didn't think before. And it's just so nice to see people explore the possibilities of a resilient life.
Let me share just a little bit on that. It wasn't that simple. It was that my dad was an academic and he was a Stanford Phi Beta Kappa guy. He was a Mensa, a genius guy. So his world was his brain. He liked to sit and read. The more you sit and read, the more you lose your thighs. The more you sit, they atrophy. And the more you sit, they get weaker. So my dad would sit in that, he had a chair and he really liked his chair. Matter of fact, he had it reupholstered 3 times because he liked his chair so much. And that was sacred. I mean, you don't touch my dad's chair and you don't sit in my dad's chair. It was his chair. And he would read books and books. Anyway, so he'd call me and say, "Hey, Robert, get over here. I got to go pee." And I'd say, "Get out of the chair yourself." And he goes, "I can't. Come over here and help me get out of this chair." So I said after a while, "Hey, Dad, I love you. I'm for you, but I'm not going to come every 20 minutes to have you go pee. My world is revolving around getting you out of the chair to go pee. So if you want to keep your chair, you're going to have to earn it because I'm going to get rid of your chair." He said, "I'll kick you out of the house before you touch my chair." I said, "Well, knock yourself out. Kick me out of the house. I'm here to help you. And if you want to kick me out of the house, go for broke. But you're going to be stuck in that chair." And he said, "What do you want me to do?" I said, "I want to get you out of that chair. And I want to help you with your balance of your inner ear because you don't move enough. And I want you to get on your cane. And I want to pull you out of the chair. And I want you to get on your cane, put both hands on the top of that cane. And I want you to give me a little bit of a squat." And he gave me about that much. I said, "That's no squat, Dad. That's just flexing a little bit." He said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want a 90-degree angle. Get all the way down, get up, get down, get up, 90 degrees. Can't do that." "Yeah, you can." So we started doing 2 squats, 3 squats, get deeper, Dad. "Come on, Dad, you can get deeper. Dad, give me 5. Just give me 5 good ones, Dad." And he sort of liked the challenge of me saying, "Dad, you're weak. What's the deal with you?" And so he began to say, "I'll show you." And so he began to get down into full air squats, and he'd say, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd say, "Bada bing, Dad, you're hot. Let's do 3 sets today." Blah, blah, blah. About 6 months later, he's given me 5 sets of 25 full deep squats. And he's no longer calling me to get him out of the chair to go pee because he can get up out of the chair. And I go, "Dad, you're hot. I'm telling you, Dad, you're the hottest 92, 93, 94, 95-year-old I've ever met." So I'd take him to church. And he come walking and standing really straight and tall, because he still did his push-ups, but he didn't do his air squats at the beginning. So he'd walk in, I'd say, "Hey, Dad," and all these blue-haired ladies, and orange-haired ladies, and all these guys, this old 75 to 100 group. He'd get in there and I say, "Hey, Dad, hey, everybody, look at this. Check him out." And I say, "Dad, give him 5 good ones." And he'd give 5 good ones to all these old people. And they were on walkers and stuff, and he'd smile. He'd say, "You guys, get over here on your walker. I'll show you how to do these squats." So he had 30, 40, these seniors, come on, bend over, squat and stuff. And pretty soon he became known as the squat guy. So I'd take him down the street and we'd do our walk. I'd walk him down the street, we'd talk and stuff. I'd say, "Dad, why don't you just stop and give me 25? And he'd go, "All right." And so in the street, he'd hold on to some car and then get on his thing and he'd start, giving me 25. And a car would come by and say, "That's elder abuse. You can't do that to him." And I'd say, "He wants his chair." And they looked, and he just smiled. I said, give him some more, Dad. And the cars would stop and watch this old guy with a hat on, Mr. Rogers vest, giving squats in the street. Anyway, he kept doing those and gained confidence and wanted to take on more challenges. I said, "Dad, you're not 92. You're Dad. You can do whatever you want to do. What are you capable of? Don't act your age, Dad. Don't act like all these folks who have cashed it in already." You can do and be more. And so we began to do sit-ups again and push-ups again and blah, blah, blah. So when he was 101, he's looking pretty good, but he got pneumonia. He'd been praying for pneumonia. Um, Pneumonia is called old man's friend because you just go to sleep. And you want to be with my mom. He was bored. All his friends are dead. And so I want to go home. I want to be with Jesus. I want to go be with mom. I said, Dad, you've got pneumonia. And his eyes got real big. And he goes, really? I said, this may be it. And he goes, okay. And so in the last part, we call the ambulance because he's can't breathe. His lungs are filling up with fluid. And I say, Dad, we're going to the hospital. This is the last run. And he goes, okay. We get him to the hospital and put him in the bed, put him on oxygen. And the doc comes in and says, how long do you want us to keep him alive? We keep him alive for weeks, but he could go if we just want him to go. How long do you want to lay here in this bed? And I said, Dad, what do you want to do? He says, I want to go. I said, all right. So our wife held one hand. I held the other hand. I said, Dad, take one of those big, deep breaths and go be with mom. And they took the oxygen thing off, we held his hands. And he looked at me and said, I love you, son. I said, I love you, Dad. And he looked at my wife and goes, I love you, Sandy. Love you. And he goes, big breath, and then closed eyes. He was gone. And so he went out strong. He went out happy. He went out confident. He went out fulfilled because he just didn't get sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. He ate moderately. He didn't drink. He just was a good, wholesome guy. And he had the right mindset of taking on the challenges and getting wins versus just waiting for the inevitable to happen to him. And when I work with people, I say, what are you capable of? If you want to commit suicide, go commit suicide. But you don't have to unless you want to. Do you want to give up? Or do you want to grow? Do you want to get a win? Or do you want to suck your thumb and be a victim and then pull the plug and do something selfish like commit suicide? And they look at you like, nobody ever talks to me like that. And I go, I'm for you. I'm a paramedic. I put guys in body bags. I'm military. If you want to die because you just want to give up because you're lazy and you don't want to do the work, there's not much I can do. But if you want to grow, whatever your issue is, man, I was sexually abused twice, 7th grade and 8th grade. I started drinking heavy in 8th grade. I drank till I was 20, heavy. In jail, crashing cars. My dad's the judge, and I'm in jail. It wasn't good. And when someone finally said, Robert, your head's all messed up. You don't think right. And I thought, I don't know. I've always been like this. And they said, you have so much talent and you're so smart and gifted, but you just got so many snakes in your head. You need to think right. I said, well, how do you think right? And they said, do this. And I began to do that, and pretty soon rewired my brain and I got those daily wins. And all of a sudden, that deep, dark cloud around my existence, I went to university 4 times and quit 4 times, just didn't have the game. And then people began to do that thing with me. My class had 150 in our pararescue class, and they graduated only 7. And they made me team leader of the 7. And I said, me? You got to be kidding me. This is me. We're the good guys. We're the smart guys. We're the gifted guys. They all quit. Well, I know, but why'd they quit? Because they didn't have the game. They didn't have the mental game. We gave you the mental game before you went in, and you're not the athlete that they are, but you won because you think better. And I went, oh, I just need to think better. Because you can find suicide if you want. You can find drug addiction if you want. You can find failure if you want. But if you're around the right people and get rid of the right people and begin to listen to the winners, not the losers, begin to think with the positive people, rewire your brain, neuroplasticity, it'll rewire. You can become that thing that you've always wanted to be. And there's another person inside every one of us that wants to come out. but they're trapped because of what we put in our brain and who we hang with. You show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So to those listening out there, we are for you, but you got to look in the mirror and say, I'm willing to do the work to get ready for this Christmas and these relatives and this whatever it is. And it's going to be a process. And I'm going to have to go to people and find the right people to say, help me think better and not do something stupid or say something stupid or do what I've done the last 10 Christmases and blah, blah, blah. And to those listening, you can do it. We tell you you can do it. You're not strange. You're like the rest of us. You can do it if you want to, but you got to find the right people to help you develop mental resiliency, mental toughness. And that's just not some hard-nosed military thing. That's, how do I deal with an autistic child? How do I deal with cancer? This guy called me the other day. I trained with a military guy, and he was just crying on the phone. I said, what's up, Ralph? He goes, I got cancer. I mean, I just went in for a checkup and they found cancer. And he's a really wealthy attorney. And I said, and so? He said, I'm going to die. I said, since when? And walked him through, and then every day began to call him, tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're thinking. 2 days ago, he called me and said, I got it. No problem. This thing's not going to take me out. I got it. I can do this. And I said, you can do this. Blah, blah, blah. And it's if those emotions bite you, we all crater. If you don't have a way to battle those emotions with friends or training to develop the mental resiliency to adversity and say, we can do this. We can do this. We can get through this. And I told him, don't talk to your kids at all, because you'll give them the wrong stuff and they'll be worse than you. If you're crying, they're going to doubly cry that you're going to die. Then the whole family's going to spiral. You and me will talk. Don't tell anybody until you're ready to be positive in a championship mindset of, I can handle a stupid chemo. Bring it. I got good doctors. And so he calls me now and says, all good. Good. I said, good. Call me tomorrow. Call me tomorrow. Call me tomorrow. Call me today. How you doing? All good. But it took work and pain. Make sense?
Absolutely. And let's get some win, folks. One at a time. And before you know it, you are having a championship type of season where you can go on and affect others with that positivity, because the challenges will come, but you have it in you to succeed. And talking about having it in you, what do you have coming up, Robert, and how can people get a hold of you if they want to listen to you, have them coached by you, or speak at one of their events?
All of you listening, my phone number is 949. See, I'm old school. 949-542-9600. One in front of it if you're not in the United States. My website is my name, roberthamiltonowens.com, roberthamiltonowens.com. Email is my name, Robert Owens, but the Owens, O-W-N-S, has two S's. I did that for my kids a long time ago. Robert Owens, double S, at Yahoo. And you contact me and say, I'm thinking about this, and what do you think about that? And I just did a bunch of dentists in Australia, Zoom, and I do people all over. They want to say, help us with our employees. Our employees, they just make these mental mistakes or something. And I say, I used to make those, so probably you did too. And we can work that out. So you can contact me. I'm speaking different places. I'm doing a 35 business guys in San Francisco next week, and they want to talk about mental resiliency as salespeople. Just came back from Indonesia and did 50 millionaire Iranian businessmen and businesswomen. And it's called the Iranian Impactors Club. I do different kinds of groups. My passion is kids. My passion is I like adults, but I love to work with high school and college university students who had the same snakes in their head that I had in my head at that age, and help them get a grip on, hey, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And those are pretty squirrely friends you're hanging out with. Why don't be surprised you're pretty nuts too. So I like all different kinds of groups. I can come on as a grandfather, I can come back as a military guy, I come back as a screwed up kid, and they all identify. So it's pretty fun.
Folks, we're going to have all that information as part of the show notes and video so you to get a hold of Robert. Robert, brother, thank you so much for sharing this time, this specific topic with me during this season where we know that a lot of people are challenged with having the right thinking during this time. Today's episode is sponsored by Fantail Services and Superpass, which are powering our website and app, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, and Harchester, London. And if you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to subscribe and let us know by leaving a comment. We're
Yes,
always looking for new ideas and guests that can add to our show. So if you know someone or want a topic covered or featured on the podcast or want to sponsor our show, we love to hear about it by emailing us at triadleadershipsolutions@gmail.com. And be sure to tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.